back in college and you're dating a girl, whatever. You're a good dude and all, and then she's like, I just, and then she's all wishy washy, and then she goes off and she dates a bald headed biker dude who's a douchebag, right? And you're why would you do that? He's like, he makes you feel like Tom.
Request for proposal is very big in like government and
Just bidding, basically.
it's
Like a
bidding.
bidding,
It's
yeah.
it's bidding.
Isn't that the connection, the networking is so valuable, in, business, right? Because, um, I'm just seeing this now. I mean, I signed up for it's called PPA, which is Professional Photographers of America, and usually it's like $435. I think some people look at it, they have this expectation if they buy this, they're gonna be the next big, you know, business person, but that's really not it. It's really just you're basically spending the money to be able to go to conventions, to meetups, to networking, to where you can meet people, to make a sale. If you spend $500 a year and you make just one sale for $500, you pay for it, essentially, right? But for me, it was like $80 as a student. And then the convention, I can't say that word today, is in Dallas in February. It's usually like $300. It's free for students because I'm going to ASU now, or this fall. And I was like, yeah, man, that's a no-brainer. Pay a little money, meet people.
I still have my ASU ID in my wallet from when I graduated 14 years ago, and I still use it to get discount.
I love it, man. I love it.
Photography is actually very similar to our branding and web development side because there's a very big creative component around all three of those, right? Where you need certain types of people to do creative and leadership type situations. So, like a goal for you would probably be is it's going to take you a while to learn and understand how to grow it. Um, I've learned from the branding side because we do something very similar. Like we don't create photography. I'll bring photographers on if needed, but we focus very heavily on the identity and how the website is meant to be positioned to an audience. And so we'll focus on helping them define that vision and that mission and how that relates to the visual side of the communication. We'll create the visual side. Websites very similar. I don't just create websites. It's like we have to sit down and we have to figure out the roadmap. That takes leadership. We have to sit down and be like, what are we going to do here, here, and here? What's the purpose for this? What's the purpose on why someone would want to come to your site? Make sure it matches your position. I'm not going to get into the digital marketing side because that's a whole different ballgame, but it's a similar concept as we are creating creative solutions around the vision of said wedding planner or, you know,
Yeah.
photos you're taking. And so, um, I would say that that's one thing that I missed as I was growing the marketing side is that like, oh, these types of people aren't really online. Like our big client in the gym space, she's the I think she's now the CMO. She's the CMO of we work with Crunch. It doesn't I can say who they are. We're with Crunch and she's a CMO at Crunch and um you think she found me through online? Well, her marketing manager did actually, funny enough, but she didn't do the work. She sent it to her marketing manager, and the marketing manager is the one that found me. And so you have to think about your audience, but where am I more likely going to meet that type of person? I'm not going to meet them online. I'm not going to meet them through just putting up a form and saying this. If I wanted to meet her directly, I'd probably have to go to an event, build a relationship with her. And so branding in itself in those larger web jobs, it is about the connection. You have to, in photography type jobs, you have to meet people, build connections,
Yeah, you
and
have
grow.
to. Yeah.
And as much as people and here's something I think that is a good common practice for anyone who's in the field or are really thriving on, I need to build reoccurring revenue. I think it's funny because I took a complete opposite approach to what happens to most people. Most people come on and they're like, they start building these projects out 60, 70. I mean, large branding firms can charge anywhere 100 grand. I mean, I don't know her personally, but I follow her. She sells 500K branding packages, vision packages for large leadership organizations. And hopefully, eventually, I'll get there. It's probably going to take me a long time, but um, she's not going to sell them. be online, right? She's gonna have to go meet somebody. She's gonna have to build a relationship with them, build a connection. But I, unfortunately, with my security side of the needs that I wanted was like, I need to build reoccurring right now. Like I need
Mm,
reoccurring. I want it stable. What happens with the reoccurring, if not done right, is you don't build those connections. You get comfortable real easily
you
when
get complacent?
you get it's very easy to get complacent when you're making 30, 40K a month. I'm not complaining, but kinda am. But you have, a client that you've had for 5, 6 years that you've helped grow to 3, 4, $5 million, and how many referrals are you really gonna get out of that person? Maybe 1, 2, if you're lucky, but you've had them for so long that you can't keep asking them for referrals. The project side, on the other hand, if you're able to get it forces you to work on your lead acquisition and your how you're going to get clients because reoccurring, you say, "Oh yeah, great. Like I can go out there and I only need one." Like me personally, if I did all reoccurring, like gym marks basically reoccurring. That's all it is. If I can go out and get one client a month, sounds simple enough, right?
Yeah.
Um, Probably a lot harder than it seems. But I'd say, okay, I need to talk to 10 people a month, 10% close rate if I'm lucky, 20% at 2 would be great, but really, that's all I need to get to 1,000,000, that's all I would really need to get to 1,000,000 is 1 sell a month, but they're not gonna build momentum for you. You're gonna have to very much so focus on the outreach and, um, they're not gonna build that connection. Large branding firms, photography firms, how do they build their clientele? I always hear it's through referrals. It's always like, "Oh, hey, like, we built such a good relationship with this," and you know
Mm.
why? Because they do a project, it's about 2 to 3 months. They have to learn to keep them in a engaging pipeline of, "How are you doing? Let's go get coffee. Do you need any more projects?" You keep the relationship going. Or reoccurring, it's like, especially in digital marketing, is, "All right, we're doing the same thing every month to get you to the next spot. You may upsell you once you reach the next spot, but that's kinda how it works. You have a call with them hopefully once a month or every 2 weeks, depending on the aggressiveness of what you're doing. You build a relationship that way, but can't really ask for clients all the time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So, could you compare it to, farming is like the reoccurring customer, and hunting, going out in the wild hunting is like the one-time customer, right? To where when you're hunting, you're, like, out there, you know what I mean?
If you're talking about within, yeah, the
Like a co just a
terms,
com yeah, just a
you
comparison, like an analogy.
you could say hunting is
Just gotta get
definitely
that 1 kill, just that 1 kill,
that
and
one
once
could,
you get it, you take it back to base camp, you're good for a while.
yeah.
Whereas, like, the farming is like, you can just be there on the farm, maintain it, water it here and there, throw it some,
Well, and I actually cringe when I get prospects that come on and they're like, "Yeah, all I do is get referrals, and this other digital marketer told me like, oh, referrals is dead. You need to do everything online." And I'm
uh,
like they kind of should be part of the same thing, to
uh-huh,
be honest. You can have yeah, it's about sustainability. So I look at digital marketing now as a connection, like I said earlier. But if you're going to hunt, if you're going to hunt versus farm, yeah, I would rather build up a list of partners, like, go out and find someone if I do, and that's another reason why I had to separate out because being full service, I couldn't necessarily build a partnership in a certain field because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, we do that."
the coolest quote I've heard recently is, "If you don't like to sell, you'll never be rich because you only enjoy to buy." And that just really hit with me because I was
Ah, that's an interesting one. You should send that one to me.
I wrote it on the board up there. "A person who hates to sell will never be rich because they only enjoy to buy." I wrote it for myself to read it because I wrote that's like my pitch up there in the black, and then, like, that's what customers will go back, and I'm trying to weave through that and figure out, a good method of selling to people. Um
That's I'm gonna take a picture of that before you. I like that you have everything on the board.
Yeah, I got that big board so I could write stuff out and then figure out, like, I change the pitch, then I'm looking at what are they gonna say back, and then I'm thinking back in my head, what did they actually say? Like, that right there, the red ones are the projected, what I would think they would say back, but I have, like, in my memory what people have actually said back, And so I'm gonna start writing that out and then writing off little bitty, branches of, like, how to tackle those issues, like, there's always some pushback from people on how to knock through those barriers, you know what I mean?
It's hard. I always tend to get the same. I always it's So this is an interesting one because I was actually ranting about with my ad guy the other day about this. And I'm like, because I was always very big on the give take method and the value. I learned a lot about selling value. Spent 2 years learning how to sell that because I'm like, I tried to bring salespeople in for a while, but I realized that I'm like, until I'm at least $1 million, like this is what I need to do, you
Mhm.
know? And
You're saying you just gotta bootstrap it for that part?
yeah,
Yeah.
I do because it's just one of those situations where, 1, I enjoy connection, but what I've found this is what's crazy with the society right now. No one wants to haggle anymore. I'm like, I would let
No, man, nobody I hate that shit.
it's like now it's like
Please haggle with
so
me.
yeah, like
Let's make a
talk
deal, man.
so I've had clients that have literally ghosted me and told me and not even said no, and then they went with like a person
Shitty company?
some oh, that happens all the time, but they'll like go with just the one like $10 cheaper, like or like I'm not saying 10, I'm over exaggerating, but like, I'll be like I'll sell like a $60,000, branding package to them and then they'll come back and be like, "Oh, we went to, this person that was doing 45 or 50." And I'm like and 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 I look at the company and I'm like, "Did you even wanna talk to me?" Like, we had one phone call, and we went through and we talked through I have a discovery call, we go through their pains, we kind of understand. I like to talk through price. I'm like, "So what is the budget you're looking for? What is this?" And I like to, yeah, anchor. I'll purposely put a price out there, and I'll say, a price a little bit higher than what we're needing, and then I usually like them to come back and like, "Oh, well, what are you looking for?" "Well, we don't know what we're looking for with
Yeah.
price." It's like, of course you have a price written down. You have a budget. Of course you have a price. So just tell me the price. I don't say it like that, of course, but like give me a price so that I can come back and be like, "All right, well, we'll do it at that price if we can make it a 2-month contract instead of a 1, or how about we do 40K and we break the payment system up, or, like anything that we can do. And that's how I was taught. That's how I learned value-based selling is the give and take method, kinda do something along those realms. But no one haggles anymore. I'll literally be like,
Drives me nuts, man.
30, I'll be like, 20, it's a little expensive for what I'm well, what are you looking for? "Oh, I don't know."
It drives me nuts,
I'm like,
man.
why don't people like to haggle? I mean,
I so I go to, so I eat, like, heart and liver and stuff like that for the micronutrients from liver and stuff, so I'll go down to Bay's, which is like a Middle Eastern store, and I love it, dude, because everybody there, they haggle, and I think if you didn't know what haggling was or you were just a very uncomfortable person in general, you would think that they were arguing back and forth. No, no, I don't want this one. I want this one. That one's bad. This one. They don't get offended. "Oh, this man, he doesn't want this one. He wants that one. Get that one." They just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, just haggling all the time about stuff, back and forth. "No, the price is too much. How much do you want?" "No, no, that's not enough. We'll go higher." They just back and forth, back and forth. And I love it because it's like they're coming to an agreement,
yeah, they're
man.
coming to it's based that's what it is, right? It's coming to an agreement. Um, and it's part of the re I think
Trade.
it's trade. It's
Yeah.
part of a relationship. It's part of building a relationship. To be honest, I think it's part of trust too, because it shows and I mean, yeah, you're right. I think that some people don't know how to haggle. I mean, you've seen those memes of people that are like when you go to like Facebook Marketplace or something and you're like $60 and someone comes and goes $5 and you're uh, all right, if we're just gonna go back and forth for us to get to 30 here, like that's not what's going on.
Yeah.
But I wish I'm telling everyone, like if anyone was coming to me and they want to haggle, or they do this, and this is something that bugs the crap out of me. Like we worked really hard on the types of people we want to come in the door. Like, I'm sorry, I just can't help you. I can give you a referral if you want. Like I'll even have people on the call where they're like, that's just too much. Can you go any lower? And if I can't go lower, I'll be like, you know what? Like, I don't think you're a right fit. Like, if you'd like, I can look through some of your competitors and I'll tell you which one would be a good because I don't get upset when I lose a sale because of course I want a new client. Of course I want them to grow. I get more upset that I know that they're making the wrong decision.
That's me a lot too.
Yeah.
That does.
And I'll tell them, just let me know some of the other people you're going for, and I'll tell you if they're a better fit than us.
Oh, man. What if that's the emotional thing about it? Because, like, I gotta explain it out. So, like, when you're, uh, back in college and you're dating a girl, whatever, you're a good dude and all that, and then she's like, I just," and then she's all wishy-washy, and then she goes off and she dates a bald-headed biker dude who's a douchebag, right? And you're why would you do that? He's like a piece of shit. He makes you feel like shit all the time. What if it's just, like, the emotional persuasion they're really good at to where, like, you know what I'm saying? To where, like, in sales, it's like I hate that because I'll have people the same way. I'll quote them the price, and and they ghost me or whatever. They go with somebody who's just they just do a shit job, and it bugs the hell out of me. Like, dude, I could have done such a good job for you if you'd have just gone with me. But that other person is not good at what they do. They're just really good at convincing people.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
they are.
Really good at
It's
convincing.
always and unfortunately, it's the something that's been very hard for me because they usually fall for the sleazy salesman tactics.
Yeah, that's the crazy
It's
part.
not the relationship building, and I've come to realize I've had to just come to realize, be like, "Hey, like, there's 3 things that are happening there." I'm like, 1, they have not like I said earlier, they have not learned the bad before they can get the good. So they need to go through that process. I mean, if a client comes to me and they're like, "We just want a logo," for instance, I'm like, "We don't create logos, we create brands.
Mhm.
We create your vision." But I'll be honest, companies that are in the validation phase, they don't need that yet. So they don't. It's usually like, "Hey, like 500 to a million when you have to create this vision, or you have to evolve the vision when you start bringing a team and a culture and stuff like that." So
So what you're saying, to interrupt you real quick, because I think some people when they hear this, they're not gonna understand what you mean by brand, and I understand what you mean. The brand is like the feel, what it makes you feel, what it represents. Kinda like when you hear Nike, what it makes you feel like, what it represents, Apple, Starbucks, whatever, to where you're saying people have a lot of revenue coming in and they wanna elevate their brand, right? That you're saying they wanna get more sales, they wanna get
they wanna They wanna elevate the perception of who they are by who they are. So a
okay,
lot of it really depends on if you're a personal brand or a corporate brand, but
sure.
I could go as deep as saying a corporate brand is only a residence of a personal brand. A person's going to ev the way they are as a person's going to evolve the business, to be honest.
Mhm,
But yeah, it's the perception, but a lot of it comes back to not just how people perceive you. I mean, yes, it's how people perceive you, but not just clients, but team.
mhm.
Um, you have to have a vision, but it's basically documenting all that. It's basically figuring out like my vision, what I want to do for the company, the values I have. Those are the intangibles of a brand. Those are like the things you don't see, but still need to be developed because they're going to help you with the vision of documenting where you're going to go. Where the brand and the visual side can be internal like documents. It could be your logo. It could be your brand language. But I like to pertain it down to that subconscious feel. So it's like you drive down the street. Why do you think there's multiple gas stations in the same area? Because really, there's probably just going to be one or two things from a subconscious level that are going to get you to be like, I'm going to go to Circle K instead of Shell.
Yeah,
So and that doesn't have to be the logo. The
that's
visuals are
I
the visuals are the things people assume are part of it, but it comes down to your offers, your audience, because
strategy, it's
you're gonna
strategy.
know yeah, you're gonna know for a gym, for instance, if you're selling to I'll just use this as probably a very easy example for people to get. If you're a gym and you're not branded correctly, you'll start creating these offers, price points around nothing. Like, you're gonna be like, "All right, Vision, the guy down the street's doing $30 a month." Like, "All right, but if you're a yoga studio, why are you putting people of why are you putting weightlifting equipment in your studio?"
Mhm.
That kind of that it's hard to explain, but, like, down to your offers, like, why do you have challenges around losing weight? That's not what yoga goers wanna deal with. You need to make offers around and messaging and vision around helping that audience, and so, uh, it's like your offers, how you differentiate yourself. And the reason I think people don't get it is because I think that we have 3 tiers. You have business, you have branding, and you have marketing. People usually jump from business to marketing. I mean, I've had clients all the time that have no foundations and no branding in place, and it usually ends in failure, or I'm doing more work because they don't have a vision in place.
Mm.
And it's hard for people to understand, right? They're like, "Well, I don't know what foundations are." And it's like, it's really just taking everything that's in your head and finding a way to put that down so that you have a guiding path on not just the visuals, but your mission and your vision and your values, and you could start living by the things that really make you. And so it's documenting that. And the only way you're going to document all that is if you find it. And
I love this, man. I love this.
the only way you're going to find it is if you work with someone that's not just creating a logo, and nothing against freelancers. They're at a certain place in their development.
They're just doing the work.
They're just doing the work. They're
Yeah.
freelancers, just do the work. Yeah. They
Yeah.
don't have strategy involved.
The
So,
work.
um,
Nailing. I was gonna tell you the Circle K was a good example because I started going to Circle K more. 'Cause there's one right here in the corner because they offer the loyalty points. So it makes you feel like when you go there, they're not giving you like a discount. I don't really like discounting. I think it's I think it's tarnishes reputation. But I don't know that much right now. I'm just learning. Um, but it makes it feel like it's a trade. Like I give to them by buying their gas, and they give back to me by giving me a discount on the gas if I buy from them. Make sense?
yeah.
Like if you come here, we'll reward you for it, type of thing. Right? It's like an incentive.
Yeah. It's incentive.
It's incentivized.
And that probably took countless amounts of research on the type of person that buy gas from their company, and people don't see that. They don't understand.
The
They
back end work to
Yeah, the
figure it
back
out.
end work to figure it out, which
Yeah.
is strategy
They just
for them. Yeah, they have
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of trial and error in figuring certain things out. And yeah, there's always gonna be trial and error and failure. It's part of the growth of brand, because brand isn't just about what you do, it's about what you don't do, right? So, uh yeah, they probably did all that, but back to your point on discounting, like, I'm the same way, man. If I go to a place and, like, a shirt's $50 and then I mean, I'm okay if it's, like, 25% off, but I tell my wife all the time, I'm like, "Did you" they mark it down. It's like $50, they mark it down, like, 90% or something, and you're like, "Did you know that means that they're still making a profit on this
Yeah.
on this shirt that's"
They were basically exploiting you from the get-go.
explaining from the get. So, and that's why I always make fun of her when she goes to Kohl's or when she goes to, like, one of those they're like, "Originally $75, but it's down to 50." I'm like, "No, it was always 50. Now you're doing the reverse and you're saying it was this price, but it's your strategy is that it's this price." And I see that 'cause I'm in marketing and you could see it too. Um, but I think that for B2B type companies, like us, discounting isn't a great thing. That's why I think haggling comes into play, and it's a different give and take type
That's
method.
what Ryan Ayler, he's a mortgage broker. He was on the podcast with me. I love Ryan. He taught me a lot of good stuff. That was a lot of valuable stuff I needed to learn. He said it was like a shopping cart, you know? If somebody doesn't like the price of it, you gotta take some stuff out of the shopping cart and put it back on the shelf, right? You can't just start like, "Here's what the item is. Oh, you don't like the price? Let's go lower." And then you don't change anything. You have to take away some of it. Like, "Okay, well, we can change this up. We won't do that. Why don't we do this instead of that? You don't need this much. We can reduce it to this." That haggle back and forth, figuring out what works, but not just keeping the same item and then just reducing the price because in their eyes, it was this price. But yeah, why was it more expensive to
So, I there's a book and it's from a person called Blair Enns, the ma the pitching manifesto.
the
And I
pitching manifest?
and I've read it like 3 or 4 times, and I used to be very heavy into the value. I don't think value-based pricing works for digital marketing. I just don't, not because it's such a number-oriented
Thing.
thing with leads, and people don't get
What was the name of that book?
the pitching manifesto.
Pitching.
I think that's what it's called, but you'll find it. It's by Blair Enns. And he comes up with the whole very similar strategy, and I implemented it and was doing this for a while myself. I don't do it that much anymore because we talked about it earlier with the digital marketing stuff. I just haven't gotten any clients in from that perspective. But it was you have a high, medium, and low offer, and you really focus on, of course, the medium one's the one you're supposed to sell, The lower one is the lowest, and,
Large, medium, or small, medium, large.
yeah, and you purposely make the larger. It's not just like 10, 20, 30, for instance. It's like 5, 30, and then 80,
Yeah.
you
So a
know?
big jump from the okay.
Yeah, so the big jump, and that's like the larger package, but that's like extreme value. You offer the world for that package, and then the medium one,
Premium plus.
premium plus, and then the middle one's like, okay, but the goal is that they usually, and this always happened to me, it always did. They always fixated on the medium one, we can't afford it. But the thing that would always happen to me is I would do that too. I would be like, all right, well, let's just take some things out every time, but we still want everything.
Mm,
And it's like, well, we can't because we can't do this. And the problem with my field anyway is it wasn't really an a la carte, right? It was you have a process. So if you want a lower package, unfortunately, our process involves, like for instance, for our branding packages, we start with discovery and we go through a huge discovery session. And then we lead into the messaging and the visuals in two separate processes, and they tie in later. Um, and we go down a path of like sketching, stylescapes, then presentation, finalizing the presentation, and then that's when we'll take this from the stylescape, we'll start designing the assets from that. If I were to take that and say, all right, and I've had to do this before to cut things out, all right, we'll cut out the stylescapes, right? It ends up diluting because it's a process. It's how we can come up with a
so you're doing
perfect
it from
process.
A to B type
Yeah,
flip. You're doing the whole thing.
yeah, we have to do the whole thing for
So
you
you can't really cut out anything.
to have the quality, right? And
Mm.
so how do you really, the only way you can do that is if you take a lower package and you just say, all right, well, I'm not going to give you brand guidelines, for instance. I'm going to give you, a one sheeter. We'll just come up with some colors, but we're still going to keep the sketching. We're not going to do the brand language. There's ways you can take it out, and I'm not going to say devalue it. Um, but there's ways you can make it smaller, and that's where the lower price tag comes in, right? So I think the take things out perspective works when it comes to your pricing via an a la carte type system.
Got it. That makes okay, so what you said makes perfect sense because you're taking on the process for him. It's like, "I'm gonna get you from here to here," and you have to do even if you tell them what you do and don't have to do, you know what you have to do to get them there.